This is a quick video to highlight the games and the new features of version 13 of the software that comes with the widescreen arcade cabinet. Not going to go over everything that's been in previous iterations of the software, but I'll just highlight some of the new stuff. So actually, you know what? I'll give a bit of an overview. So first of all of these categories are arcade games broken by publisher. So these are all of Capcom. This is all of Neo Geo SNK. This is all of Naomi. A mixture of emulators used in here depending on which game suits which emulator. Whereas the rest of them are mostly MAME. Arcade games alphabetized in here. So it starts off with the numbers, so 1942, and then the last one is obviously this, Zwackery and some of the others, Zookeeper. And then this is where the real fun is, 1986 to 1990. This is where things get really awesome. I can't believe Final Fight was such a, was only released in 1989. It's like such a classic game. So for example, you just click right into it. I designed it so that you could just operate the entire front end just using the D-pad. There's no need to press any buttons. And then when you, when you're happy with this game, when you're done with it, you just hit a combination of buttons. So you hit start and the blue button, and it will pop you back. Anyway, it's just so that the kids can't accidentally press two buttons at once and launch you out. So this is where all the good stuff is, 1991 and up. I was playing around this before, so it's remembered where I am. But it would normally start off, with the numbers, and then alphabetized from there on in. So I was just looking for a game earlier. I was looking for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I couldn't remember if I put it under for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or just straight up Teenage. Turns out it was just straight up Teenage. Anyway, these are games that are 3 and 4 player. Just so I grouped that up. This is a collection of what I feel are the best old school games. So these are like really old ones, things like Altered Beast, 1942, and oh my god, the game that just completely you can get addicted to very easily, Robotron. If you don't understand Robotron, go check it out. It's amazing. Arcade best pew pew. So these are all the shooters. A lot of vertical shooters in here. Once again, it's just a simple matter of picking the one you want to get into. Press right on the joystick. Either joystick's fine, and it will launch you into the game. Just quickly quit out of that. So best brawlers as well, and look, here's a good opportunity. So with brawlers, I pride myself on having some rare oddities and things like that. So for example, there's 2 versions of Final Fight in here. There's the US version, and then there's the Japanese version. The US version is the vanilla one that we're all sort of used to. The Japanese one's a little bit more hardcore, actually, a little bit more violence and things like that. It's still obviously heaps of English. Just because it's the Japanese version doesn't mean it's entirely in Japanese. But also the intro is vastly different. I don't want to spoil it here, but maybe do a YouTube search for the difference between Japanese and US Final Fights. As well, when we get into run and guns, these are all the ones, like Metal Slug, where you're running across the screen, shooting the absolute pants out of everything. So here, for example, here it is. And once again, I have set all of these to the international version, so there's a bit of gore, there's none of this. For example, Metal Slug, there's none of this white blood action when you shoot someone. Who wants that? It was the 80s, man. Anyway, arcade fighters. Here's another example. So. Back in the day, they couldn't just release a patch or a web update to balance the fighters in the game. So it's half the reason why there's so many Street Fighter games is because, they had to balance things. Like, so when someone's punch was too strong and they had to balance it out. That's the reason why there's the Third Strike US version again and the Third Strike Japanese version. The Japanese version was the latest balanced version. That's the one that should be used in all the tournaments and everything. And then this is the US version that was the most popular, but this is the one that actually all the fighters are the most balanced and so on. Another oddity, this is a version of Street Fighter 3 Second Impact that's actually in native widescreen. So this, I don't know what they were thinking, because widescreens obviously didn't exist at the time. This game would had to have been set up in like a projector or something like that. Like, it would have been really weird. But just to sort of show you, if you, this will be set by default, but I'll just go into the 12 by, look at that. So that's native widescreen there. I've been mucking around doing some development, so that's why that's a bit off. But so native widescreen, it's amazing stuff. You know, and sort of when you insert coin, let me chuck a coin in, and I'll choose a character. Doesn't have the full roster of characters because this is only Second Impact. Third Strike had a much greater roster, so it's a pity that the game that came after this wasn't also in native widescreen. But it's absolutely beautiful. Pixel widescreen art, you know, amazing here. See if I can, I'm not very good at using the controller. There we go. Getting my bot warped. Come on. There we go, got him. Anyway, I'm going to quit out before I embarrass myself further. You know, once again, you just hit sort of start and the blue button and quit you out. There we go. Some of the CD-ROM images, this was an old CD-ROM, took a while to, you know, like release all of the system memory and then go back to the emulator. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is the front end. A whole lot of cool games in here. Not a fighter's catalog. It's got like Super Nintendo. It's got the complete catalog of Super Nintendo because the ROMs were so small. Super Nintendo, yeah. Sega Master System, just a handful because these are better off left in your mind, honestly. Some of the Sega Master System games were rough. Sega Mega Drive, full catalog. Game Boy Advance, again, just a selection. You know, the Game Boy Advance screen was so tiny that when you stretch it out to this big, you know, only some games survived that kind of stretching. Super Nintendo, though, I'm not Super Nintendo, what am I talking about? Original Game Boy Classic. So what I've done with this is I've actually, I couldn't resist. The games were so tiny that fit on those little cartridges. This is the full catalog here, but I've set it up so that it looks like the original, you know, so it's just really blocky, perfect Tetris kind of tie in there. But I shrunk it right down because obviously if you stretch this out to a full 1080p widescreen, like, you know, you're dealing with pixels the size of your thumb, so no good. But yeah, anyway, I'll just quit out of that. And if you go back into it, I think I've got it set so that it won't remember right now. Oh no, it is. It remembers right where you were so that you don't have to sort of, you know, like back in the day where you would leave the console on under the TV all weekend so that you could get back to it again once you'd finish your chores. And then, you know, it's always the situation where mum would turn it off or something and then, you know, you'd lose your progress, but you don't have to worry about that here. Just make an absolute meal of this. So then I've got a collection called Great Console Exclusives. These are all of the console games that are really kick-ass that didn't have an arcade equivalent. So these are just really awesome, well-known, well-respected console games that had no arcade version. Then there's the settings. So I used to have an exorbitant setting list, and I've decided to just cut it right down into a few things. So these are the settings that I consider the best for PC. These are the settings that I consider best for a 4K monitor. Then this is if you've got a fast PC monitor or a slow PC monitor. And I'll do another video about that later. Autosave on and off, that's what you just saw with for example, the Tetris remembered where I was up to. For example, if I go back into it again, Tetris will remember where I'm up to. Just by joining the game, I don't have to, you know, I can hit start to continue, there I am. I don't have to sort of worry about that. But sometimes that interferes with things when the game itself had its own save settings. So for example, Zelda or something like that had its own save games. So this autosave feature kind of interferes with that, stops things from working, especially Pokemons, things like that. So sometimes you need to turn it off in order to play those games properly. MAME, locked and unlocked. So the idea, or locked and open. The idea here is that just like you very quickly saw me go into the fighting game here, and I just quickly adjusted that display while I was talking. So there are so many arcade games here that you might want to just adjust something. You don't like the way the cabinet buttons are allocated, and you hit tab on the screen here, and then you go down and you select, so for example, video options, and then screen. You can muck around with this. If you want MAME to remember your selections here, you need to unlock it. So right now, you know, I've been playing with this functionality and that's why it's locked. And this, for example, even though it's the widescreen version, is shrunk. And then when I go here and I change that pixel aspect, it's now widescreen as it should be. But then when I go out of the game, and it's just dumping all of the RAM right now, clearing it out, and I go back in again, because MAME is locked with this particular version, it's going to not remember that customization, and now it's gone back to being narrow again. So I just need to go fix that in this particular instance. Just make sure that when it's locked to widescreen instead of being locked to small, but no big deal. So for example, if you want to go in and customize some of the arcade games that are in here, maybe you don't like, buttons 1, 2, and 3 being all in a row, and you want them to be more of a triangle shape, you can do that. You can just go and reallocate some stuff, and then lock it again. So once it's locked, you can lock it. Once you make your changes, you can lock it, and then it's all good. So if I go into, so that's the settings. Now the video player, this is just a basic video player. Look, I had a customer who wanted a video jukebox function, and I thought, you know what, I'll include it for everybody. At the moment, it just pulls random videos out of a folder, and I've got it playing League of Legends videos, honestly. It's no big deal. And then as soon as you press any button, it quits you out. You can obviously drag your own videos into that folder on the PC, and it will play them in in the random order. PC games. Now, this is honestly PC games is a bit of a bucket. Not all of these games are PC games. It's basically every other emulator bucket. So, for example, some of these are PlayStation 3 emulated. Some of them are PC games. Some of them take a while to launch as well. So, for example, if I go into one that I recently added, Guilty Gear Xrd, the PlayStation 3 emulator is great. It's very accurate, but it's a bit of launches awkwardly. It doesn't just sort of go, black screen and then launches the game. It shows you a bunch of stuff. So it's going through and it's loading all of these modules. Kind of the loading time of the PlayStation 3 was a bit slow anyway, so it's not necessarily worse than the original, but it does take a while to get off its butt. It can leave you hanging on a black screen for a bit. There we go, it's kicked in. Leaves you hanging on a black screen and you sort of think to yourself, oh, is it working? And then it goes into the game itself, and it looks beautiful and emulated. Anyway, I close this now, quit out, just like back to the menu, which is cool. A lot of oddities here. For example, Scott Pilgrim was never released as a game in disc format. It was a download-only game, one of the first ever DLCs through the Sony PlayStation Store. And then it was taken off due to copyright agreements and things, and disappeared into the abyss of time. But, the community has resurrected it, and now it's available to play in all of its original glory. And this is the PlayStation 3 version, so it has all of the unlocked characters and lets you play multiplayer and stuff. This was re-released later on Xbox, but it was only sort of one single player, and it didn't have the original games. Or you could play multiplayer, but only online, so there needed to be 2 people with 2 copies of the game. Maybe that was the original copyright dispute that made it pulled off the PlayStation website, but anyway, whatever. It's working here. What others to go through? Tatsunotsuka versus Capcom, the only fighting game to ever appear on the Wii, and it's absolutely glorious. That's working here, but it does launch awkwardly as well. So, for example, I'll go into it. The Wii had a thing where, so this is Dolphin emulator, it launches awkwardly, but it gets there. And it won't progress from this screen until you sort of press a button. That's the whole, don't let go of the controller. Make sure you wear the wrist strap so you don't launch it into someone's head along the way. But look, this game is a real button masher. It's a great party game. You don't have to worry about too many special moves or anything, because you just mash the buttons and you get away with it. But very, very cool. This game is now also impossible to get. It's out of publish. If you have a Wii and you have a disc, you can play it, but there's no other way to get it. They don't make those discs anymore, and you can't download it from any sort of Wii store because they've all been shut down. So anyway, I'll just quit out of that just quickly. Quits awkwardly as well. It's the best I could do. So look, I won't go into more detail, but the PC games is a bit of a bucket. Now Steam. This integrates with Steam. I should just be able to launch this, actually. It launches in big picture mode, so there we go, big picture mode. So look, you can log into your Steam account. You can use the joystick to navigate the Steam account quite well. It's, the UI is very navigable, just using the basic controls. And when you hit exit, you don't turn off the system because you can. Just go exit Steam and it takes you back here. So regardless of accidental, Steam updates and things, that's good. And that's it. That's an overview of the front end. It's amazing. It's super lightweight. I might just try to show you one other thing.